All this GameStop, Robinhood, Wall Street stuff is pretty complicated. So to put it all in context, I chatted with certified financial planner Bobbi Rebell, who's hosting the Financial Grownup Podcast. I asked her if this is something normal people who don't dabble in the stock market beyond their 401k should pay attention to.
I think it's wonderful if they are paying attention to it, because this is a wonderful learning opportunity. People are learning what options are, which used properly can actually be a way to reduce risk. They're learning about how different information can manipulate a stock in many cases. They might be learning about stocks for the first time and taking interest in things, understanding what's going on in various investment accounts that they have, whether it's a 401k or just a general brokerage account. If it gets people interested, it gets people investing, it's a good thing in that sense.
So do you think that this is going to inspire more people to get involved in investing, more casual investors?
I think it absolutely will inspire people to get involved in investing. That part is good. What I worry about, though, is that some people may misunderstand what investing really is. What's going on right now with this GameStop situation, with AMC and all these other stocks, is really speculation. This is gambling. This is barely even trading. This is speculation. So it's important to understand the difference between that and true investing, which is generally based on the actual fundamentals of a stock. This is really the wildest thing that many people have seen really in their lifetime. And people should be very careful about getting actually involved. But it is a great way to learn more about the markets, and that's a good thing.
I gotta say, I've never known as much about the stock market as I do today.
The truth is, this has captured so much attention, and it's got so many people talking about why stocks behave the way that they do. And that is such a wonderful learning experience. I just hope people get inspired to be investors. This is a great way for people to start learning, to get involved, to get interested, and to see the possibilities that you can really increase your wealth by investing. But don't mistake this speculation and really gambling for true investing. Know the difference.
Know the difference. So important. I also got Rebell's take on whether you should invest in GameStop right now. Her answers in our full interview, which I just shared on my Facebook page. That's Brandy Smith, KHOU.